Recording in progress.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to City of Griffin Board of Commissioners, August 26, 2025 meeting. We will begin with MEAG Power discussion on high-density load customers, specifically related to data center. MEAG Power staff Paul Warfer and Executive Director Jim Fuller will address. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got a few slides to go over, and then we'd open up for any questions you might have. So.
Thank you.
Nice shirt.
Paul's going to pass out a white paper.
Good morning.
Staff has prepared.
You need to take minutes. No, man, anytime. If my nervous hands will let me do it.
Look at me, she's
I've been working out.
Just let water.
Get you going.
That is hot. Good morning.
I met your cousin at work.
Who was it?
The lady that owns Smoking Margaritas.
Oh, okay. You guys don't match.
She's very nice. She didn't have anything good to say about you.
Yeah, I can hear you, right?
So that's a little position paper that the staff put out on some of the issues we've seen and how we would approach future project development. But let me just go through the slide deck here to just give you some background. This first slide really looks at the U.S. generation in terawatt, and you can see it's relatively flat up until 2023. I had it up there, okay. So very modest growth, maybe 1 to 2% year to year. And then with the data centers coming in, this next slide kind of shows how it's prepared to take off. And you know, that previous slide there was about 200 megawatts of the 200 terawatts of the 6,000 terawatts in the U.S. And you can see the projections range from growth rate of 3.7 if you assume low growth rate year to year to 15%. And right now we're in an environment where there's a lot of developers calling on our cities as well as the other incumbent wholesale suppliers in Georgia. And for instance, MEAG, our total load is about 2,300 megawatts to supply the 49 cities. And we've got over 7,000 of transmission interconnection requests that we've been approached now. The likelihood that all 7,000 would decide to go forward is pretty remote. We're thinking in the 10 to 20% of that. You know, part of our position is that we need a certain amount of growth to just stay in equilibrium with the other incumbent wholesalers, Georgia Power and Oglethorpe. And if they were to garner a disproportionate share of this load and they cover their variable costs, it could drive their rates down and make our cities uncompetitive. So we are interested in watching the situation and see if there's a situation where the benefits from serving one of these loads is in balance with the associated risk. And part of that, we're doing a lot of work on really understanding the different special situation with a large load. Some of our cities may only have, 10 to 50 megawatts, and they're being courted by entities that might want 100 megawatts to 500 or 800 megawatts, which if you don't set up the right business relationships, it can be very devastating to the community if it went sour and you had spent a lot of money to try to build new generation, and then they change and go to a different site in a different state. So it's a competitive situation. A lot of these developers, and even I call them hyperscalers, the Googles, the Metas, Amazons, they're shopping multiple sites at the same time, and they'll take you right up to the week before you think you're going to sign the contract, and they'll go in a different direction. And so typically you want those folks to pay your legal costs to set up all the arrangements, to put up substantial deposits if you're going to go into negotiations. And then what we're striving for is a situation where if we don't have the need for other growth opportunities for our communities and they come to us and want us to expand and build additional generation, we're going to ask them for a capital infusion, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But you look over the last 30, 40 years, I don't think there's been a situation where the volume of demand has been this large. And so we have to be really careful. What's particularly important for a municipal electric distribution system, especially if they're involved in a development of a new generating resources, the city not only has to pledge the revenues of the utility departments, but the general obligation pledge or the taxing power of the city. And so we're in a different situation with Georgia Power. They've got equity stockholders that can put money into a project at risk. And if it goes sour, it doesn't necessarily cascade to their ratepayers. But the cities are not only exposed to the implications of higher electric rates, but if the electric system can't support that, you can go against the tax base. So we're probably, when you look at the spectrum of people looking at this, we're probably the most conservative because we've got a great power supply right now, and it will cover modest growth of 1% to 2% with the new Vogtle 3 that we've procured. And we laid that off for 20 years. It comes back on our cities. So unless we decide to contract with one of these entities, we're in very good shape. Our revenue projections are good for the next 20 years. We've got a lot of nuclear and some federal preference hydro that are non-emitting resources as a percentage of our generation are very favorable. We've probably got double the amount of non-emitting resources as Georgia Power and Oglethorpe. And with a modest amount of solar additions over the next 10 years, and with this power coming back from Vogtle 3 and 4 that we've laid off, we can be darn close to 90% non-emitting by the 2040s. And that's very difficult in the Southeast because you basically don't have a choice for wind, and solar is really the only resource that would work at this point in time. Later on, as it gets more efficient, battery and combination of solar would be a good resource to cover base load needs. If they get the batteries where you can charge them up for maybe 8 or 12 hours. Right now it's about a 4-hour charge, so that doesn't cover, a night for 12 hours if you've got these data centers that pretty much want power at a high load factor for 24 hours a day. So when you look across the country, this is the map of the U.S., and the red lines and yellow lines are the transmission lines, and the fiber optics are the kind of gray whitish lines. And You can see Atlanta, there's an intersection of a lot of transmission facilities, and it's a hub for data centers. And I think that's why outside of Virginia, Georgia is one of the highest opportunities for data centers, and it's really the interconnectivity of the fiber as well as our generation resources at this point in time are very competitive. This is just a map of where the different hubs are right now, and you can see Atlanta. The map doesn't really put Atlanta in the right place, but it's an emerging market where, I think Georgia Power has got over 30,000 megawatts of inquiries, and I think Oglethorpe has a high number, and as I said earlier, MEAG's had about 7,000 megawatts of inquiries. So I don't think anybody...
You're one slide ahead.
Yep.
You're one slide ahead.
Yep, okay.
Yep, thank you.
I don't think anybody expected the level of growth. If you went back 5 or 7 years ago, this is really unforeseen, the level of expansion. And, certain areas will be impacted. I think Georgia is a good market. I think people want to have the capacity to go into Florida, and with the kind of the natural exposure to hurricanes and flooding in Florida, they're more comfortable putting these data centers north of the Florida-Georgia line. And like I said, in some cases it's multiples of the existing load that a utility has. And right now, access to power is really the largest single determinant of affecting where folks want to locate. And I would say it's the wild, wild west right now. I mean, there's not a week that goes by at MEAG where we're not getting at least one, if not two, data development entities calling on us and asking about access to market. And the first step is to do this transmission interconnection study. And we've done about 17 of them over the last 6 months, and there's more to come on that. So, when MEAG's thinking about developing a project, we need bond ratings, and we'll consult with the different rating agencies, Moody's, S&P Global, and Fitch Ratings. And what they're focused on is really the risk of overbuilding generation with a term of the debt service that is longer than the commitment of the data center. And that's where you end up with a problem. If you built a new plant and you invest $1 billion or $1.5 billion in the plant, you amortize the debt over a 30-year mortgage. And these data centers, they're looking at the new generation that's available now as a transition fuel. If you were to build natural gas, they really want to get to the point where these small nuclear reactors are available, and that's more likely 20 to 30 years out. So it's not known at this point if they'd re-up the contract if you just did a 10 or 15 or 20-year power purchase agreement, and then the cities would be left with debt service for energy that they may not need at that point, and that would be a burden on the balance of the ratepayers. And then there's the risk that the technology may change where the volume of energy that they're needing right now may diminish because the chips are more efficient and they don't need as much cooling. And S&P focuses on, well, if the customer leaves, the same type of stranded cost scenario. And it's really a large investment that if it weren't for this data center load, I can see MEAG getting involved in some solar development but I don't think we'd look at a base load facility that would generate around the clock. Our needs, because we've got so much nuclear capacity that's available 24 hours a day, is more on the peaking side. And solar in Georgia is good because when it generates the most, it's in unison with when the peaks are, so it just takes that spike in the load curve off with solar. So we're very cautious about getting involved in a large capital commitment. And the way we're structured, unless there's 5 cities that were willing to back up the debt that we'd issue, we can't form a project. We can go out into the marketplace and buy market power for terms that might range for 5 or 10 or 15 years. But as more and more entities come into Georgia, the availability and the cost off the wholesale market will likely be constrained and the prices will go up. So we're out talking to our cities saying that if your resources that you own through the projects that we have are less than your load, you should be concerned if you're buying off the market to fill up your needs to 100%, because we expect prices of the wholesale markets in Georgia to rise. And when we look at considerations, when you're looking at these data centers, the primary objective here is to get entities that are willing to put up capital to help mitigate how much money that folks need to invest in a new generating resource. And typically these data centers, if you're talking about new technology like small nuclear reactions or reactors or carbon sequestration, they're more apt to come and offer to inject capital into the project. If you're building a natural gas facility that is more known technology, they're less aggressive in that front. They figure it's known technology, there's not a lot of risk, the utility can step up to the plate and borrow money and serve us. But our situation, because the cities would have to not only pledge the revenue as well as their taxing power, we're holding out and saying, if you want us to build something, you need to come with money to contribute to mitigate the risk. The other factor is developing a rate structure. MEAG cannot sell wholesale. The cities have to be the entity that contracts with the hyperscaler or the developer. And we work with Electricities of Georgia to develop a rate contract that helps insulate the local utility from the risk of these contracts. And when we're advising the cities on how to set this up, there's some contractual provisions like termination fees if they leave during the construction period that would mitigate everything that you've contracted for and the walkaway cost, and parent guarantees from the entity that you're signing the contract with that would shield the customers from a default of the data center. And then minimum monthly payments, regardless whether they take any energy. They will come and visit a city and they will lay out a ramp schedule that says, well, in 9 months we'll need 80 megawatts of power, 18 months, 160, and so forth, up to 500 or 800 megawatts. And then you go out and you procure the equipment, you start hiring engineers, developing, and all of a sudden something changes in their industry and they want to change the types of chips that they're going to put in there, and that could delay the project a full 12 months. Well, if you've either gone in the marketplace to procure the power or you started building a new generation site, you need to be compensated for that. So a lot of these contracts we're seeing have minimum payments that are required regardless of the energy that's actually used to kind of insulate the utility from delays and how quickly they open up the facilities. You know, there's some unique challenges. You know, they run 24 hours a day and they have more heating and cooling requirements to keep the chips cool. And they're very sensitive to power quality, supply issues, and variations in the supply. They don't want to back out because they're making money providing the service around the clock. You know, there's a lot of things for the utilities to understand on how to meet these power quality and really just how they behave. They have different, especially the AI, they have different modes that they operate to train their models. And it's not a static load. It'd be very volatile, and that can potentially impact the other customers in your service area if they have broad swings in their power needs. And there's different ways that you can engineer around that, but I think the whole industry is learning more and more as each month goes by on how to deal with these potential risks. You know, the federal government predicts that, you know, in the next 10 years, about 15% of the increase in peak demand in the summer and then 18% in the winter. So it will impact market prices and have an impact on folks regardless whether an individual city participates in a contract with a data center. Just if you're buying off the market, as I said earlier, that could be impactful. You know, when we look at this, we think public power, municipal electric systems are positioned well to deal with this as long as they don't get carried away and back up the truck and, you know, put 800 megawatts on a 50 megawatt system. And, the sheer size of the load generates operational and financial risk that is not a fit unless we group together on a joint action agency basis and share the risk across multiple cities if we want to entertain serving a 5 or 1,000 megawatt system. And we've got some plans that I'll talk about in a little bit on how we can do that. It's basically through a project financing structure where MEAG Power would build the facility and there'd be a hyperscaler that had contracted with an individual city, and then the cities that are also members of MEAG would sign an intergovernmental contract to supply some of that support to the lead municipal that has the contract. And typically you'd expect that the contract would cover variable costs and debt service and then a markup. And those benefits would flow to all the cities that were backstopping the one city that is the sponsoring utility with the hyperscaler. And it's kind of interesting because you have different proposals come up and you have a sponsoring city that wants to take a little slice of the profit off of the people that are backfilling. And we're advocating that if we're going to get involved in a project, it should be beneficial to the smallest cities as well as the largest city, and the whole economic benefit should rise. And it's really a unique opportunity for some of our smaller communities that would never have the wherewithal or the expertise to participate and generate some of these margins that a large load customer could bring to the table. This is a busy chart, but basically it's really talking about the spectrum of utility rates for serving new data center customers. And, you know, if you were to go out and do a deal where you agreed to supply power below the marginal cost of production, that shortfall would go on the backs of your existing customers. And, you know, in our view, that is not an arrangement that you'd ever want to consider. You'd have to raise your rates for your retail customers. If you end up with the second row here where the revenue equals the marginal cost, that may be perceived as equitable, but the utility isn't really going to get any benefit. You may get some local property tax benefits if the hyperscaler is located in your taxing district. And really what we're focused on is a situation where the revenue equals the marginal cost with you know, a fair allocation of non-marginal cost and with a markup on the variable cost, where that would be a benefit to the city and the utility in the city, because you'd have margins that on power sales that you otherwise wouldn't have, and it would be a local decision if the city wanted to use those margins to lower the utility rates or go back and help reduce the burden on the taxpayers. And you know, you can do that, and you can go to a degree where it's really a lot of margins, and that may be perceived as of value to the customers, but the hyperscalers may not want to go along with that proposal. But you know, we're thinking that we've only got certain amount of opportunities to build new generating projects, and we have some developmental land and some opportunities. And so we want to extract the maximum benefit for the benefit of our cities. And so we're talking about doing what's called a reverse RFP, where we would put out the criteria for what we'd bill and the business arrangement that we were looking for, and have the different parties bid in on what they would offer as margins and how much power they would serve. And that way the whole benefit would be shared across the system. You know, typically the data centers want a ramp period before they get to the full production, and it's usually about 3 to 5 years, and a lot of that's dependent on access to transmission substations and transformers, where the lead times, because there's such a demand, are being extended out. Also, if you were going to build a gas plant, the gas turbines, the lead times are probably out there 5 or 6 years. So if you're going to build a plant, it might not be available to 2031 or 32, and then you'd need ramp power as they build each module, you know, usually in 70, 80 megawatt increments over a 3 to 5 year period. You know, typically they want to do the contract for 12 to 15 years, and that's because they're looking behind that. They really want carbon-free generation in the long term. So you can't really count on them renewing past the initial term. Some entities will sign deals for 20 years, and that would be something that would be favorable if MEAG were to put together a project, because you'd have 2/3 of the debt service paid off, and by that time the city's load will have grown where they may not need that capacity, and we'd have a third party paying 2/3 of the mortgage payment plus a margin during the period we were delivering power. So that's kind of the situation that we would be attracted to. And clearly, the business arrangement has to be take or pay provisions, where they pay a percentage of the demand charge during the ramp period, And then over the full length of the contract, they're paying all the costs so that there's no marginal costs that are coming back on the cities that are supporting the project. And we would ask the entities to put up cash collateral to build this plant and or letter of credit, so that if they were default, we'd have a third party that has very good ratings to step in and pay what they would owe us. And clearly, if they leave early, they'd have to pay exit fees. So kind of in summary, it's a unique opportunity. It's the potential for dramatic load growth, significant revenues with associated margins, but there is a lot of risk on servicing the debt service to build a new generating resource, and just all the time and effort that the cities as well as the MEAG staff would have to put together to make arrangements for the power supply, the fuel, the transmission, and protect against these stranded cost risk if the counterparty were to go in a different direction. And so I talked a little bit earlier about this reverse RFP, and we want to put this RFP out, get people to bid on. We'll probably shortlist that to 3 or 4 and go into more detailed, extensive negotiation, and then likely pick a horse to go out to the cities and say, all right, here's a business deal that we can offer. Here's the markup on the cost that they're willing to pay. This is the size. Here's the type of unit that we would propose to build. Here's the site. And because these sites that we have for future development were financed from our original Project 1 we call it, that has fractional interest originally in 8 units, 4 nuclear and 4 coal. Each city would have an opportunity to participate and decide if they wanted to get involved in this situation. And if they chose not to, we would redistribute that option to the balance of the participants and see if we could get 100% of the generation commitment contracted for. If we don't have 100%, the project does not move forward. We went through this project process on Vogel 3 and 4. We got done, we had 100% of the output subscribed, and that is really the basis that we can issue bonds, and the bondholders look at the credit support behind the bonds. And you know, we look for full cost recovery, a margin. We'd want to deal with a financially viable and secure organization that had the operational capability. And you know, there's a bunch of infrastructure on their side that they have to have in the engine room. Pretty much a well-designed facility with known interconnection requirements and power quality requirements. So, you know, to get to the point where we pick a horse to deal with and then go out and solicit the participants, you need the contract in place. And sometimes these hyperscalers are very motivated, and you might expect to get through that in 3 to 5 months. In other situations, we've heard these negotiations going on for 18 months to 2 years, and some of them never come to a conclusion. So it's not a sure thing. You can do the dance and think you're right there, and they decide to go to a different state and locate there. All of a sudden, the expectations that you have are just, it's a clean slate. And that's why we want to talk to 3 or 4 and have serious negotiations to, one, get the best deal, and if somebody steps out of the process, we can move to the second one. So that's kind of an overall view. I know it's a a huge amount of material to bring to you if you're not familiar with the situation. But the one thing I'll say is we are being very deliberate, and we've got to minimize the risk to the cities. That's the whole objective, that we wouldn't come out to the cities and recommend that you get involved in a project unless we've looked at every single angle to ensure that you wouldn't be taking on a burden to your incumbent ratepayers or your incumbent taxpayers in your community. So Paul and I are here to answer any questions that you might have on the topic, and we'll be happy to come out and speak to you at any point in time if you have questions as we go through this. And I just think on Vogel 3 and 4, before we got that signed up, we had over 500 meetings with the cities to get everybody in a position to decide whether they wanted to participate in the opportunity or not. I would expect this would be equally as meticulous and detailed, and that you take a lot of meetings to get people comfortable in making a decision to participate. And, you know, we're talking about this reverse RFP this fall, and you'd give folks about 6 weeks to review the RFP, and you'd analyze that for probably 2 to 4 weeks, and then you'd have a short list. And our objective is to get through that by the end of the year. And there's some changes in the rules on developing new power plants that will likely be adjusted towards the end of this year, and I think that's important. Some of the Biden administration limitations on how you can, say if you're going to build a gas plant, they limit how much you can operate the plant. So if you commit to build a 600 megawatt gas-fired power plant, you can only run it 40% of the time. You have to build 2 units to supply a 600-700 megawatt data center load, and that would double the cost and change the economics. So the timing of when we're planning to do this coincides when some of these rules that the Trump administration is looking at that likely will come to a head towards the end of the year, and then we'd be better positioned to recommend getting involved in future expansion for this type of situation. I know that was a mouthful, so.
Thank you, Mr. Boulder. Before I start throwing out questions, any board members have any thoughts or any comments?
I guess the only thought I have, my left brain looks at it like, okay, we have the ability to shift the, I guess the cost. You know, you've got this industrial that's going to pay, and then we can kind of relieve some of that debt off the ratepayers. So that side's going, but then this side's thinking the law of supply and demand. So that only, you know, it's like gas prices, you know, the more you want it, the more they go up. So how can we think this when we are thinking this supply, I mean this demand, there's a limited supply. So how can we imagine that we're going to shift the rates to the ratepayers down if it's probably going to go up in the long run for everybody? I guess that's what I'm toying with.
Well, I think the margins, if you're to get involved in the data center, would help alleviate the pressure. You know, you can't, whether you get involved in the data center or not, just the overall demand's impact on the market level, the best way to ensure against that impacting your city ratepayers is that the generation that you have contracted through MEAG, that acts as an insurance policy as to where wholesale market rates go. And if you're not buying off the market, then you're not exposed to that. So we have to be good planners and have a good pulse of how much growth your local community has outside of this data center growth, And there'll be other projects that we have that are outside of this that you have to keep a good check on. Are your resources in balance with your load requirements? And anytime you decide to buy off the market, there'll be periods where that may be beneficial if wholesale market rates are lower than your incumbent resources you own through MEAG. We back off how much we run those units and buy it cheaper off the market. But the other situation is you're buying off the market, you don't have enough MEAG resources, and the market rates go up, and that's going to flow right to your participants. So it's kind of two equations. One, do you need for your incumbent businesses and your residential and commercial accounts? And then you've got this data center opportunity where we're going to try to structure it so there's no burden from that particular transaction, and hopefully a benefit that would reduce the utilities requirements from their customers or reduce the tax base of the city. So I think you have to bifurcate your view and look at each situation separately. If you were buying off the market and you needed 20 or 30 megawatts, you probably should address that need before you start thinking about this data center. And I think, MEAG's in the process of asking cities, what do you see as your native load requirements outside of crypto mining or data centers, so that we don't want to go out and build a power plant to serve a data center if we're not meeting the underlying supply needs of our existing city customers. So the answer may be a little bit of both to supply both of those needs.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Question? So right now, we're roughly about a 15-cent cost per megawatt for residential during summer rates, plus or minus. So when you're talking about if a data center comes in and there may be a premium in terms of what power costs to recover the capital quicker. So are we talking about like what a charging station charges, 20 cents, 25 cents? Do we look at how do we take our surplus power that we're selling possibly below wholesale rate and creating an opportunity for that to be leveraged?
Yeah, I mean, there's a retail rate and there's the wholesale market rate. So the wholesale market rates don't include your distribution charges for your local distribution system. So, you've got the wholesale power cost from MEAG, and then you add that distribution cost. So you really should be talking about the wholesale rate and what can MEAG generate and what the data center is willing to pay. And that margin would come back to assist your city. So, MEAG's overall wholesale rate is in the neighborhood of 7 cents, but it depends. Each city owns different fractional interest in different projects, and each project has a different cost. So the overall system rate's 7 cents. We have some folks that are up at 9 or 10, some are down at 5 or 6. A good chunk of them are around the 7 cents. The data centers, because it's new generation, I think it's 9 to 11 cents that they'd be willing to pay. So if we're going to develop a new project, it would likely be in the neighborhood of 9 or 10 cents, and we'd ask for a markup of that. And we're going through this competitive process to find the entity that's willing to pay the most. And we would come back to the city, and it would be each city's option whether that was a deal that they found attractive for supporting the project or not. So,
But if we punt and decide not to do it, and then the EMCs, the Southern Company, takes on the burden of providing the power load, we take a safe position. does our MEAG's surplus power become more valuable that then becomes beneficial for us to sell it and
You know,
make more money on that side versus taking the risk of putting our ratepayers with that option of, and again, in 18 years, our power is coming back to us from Vogtle 3 and 4.
Yep.
And so what happens in 18 years when we've got to start taking that piece of the pie back if we can't sell it?
Yeah, that could be a burden, and that's the
And that's
risk.
where I'm thinking, where are we at
Yeah,
in
that's the
18
risk.
years when that surplus comes back to us?
You know, it's a market-driven equation. I hear stories in Europe that in certain locales where it's very difficult to build power plants, that the hyperscalers are willing to pay back the full capital cost of a new generating plant in 10 years, and the contract that they have is 10 years. So the incumbent utilities are really at no risk. But that situation in the United States, I can't cite an example where the hyperscalers are willing to pay 100% of the capital cost over the term of their contract. So, you know, that's where we need to go through this process and find out exactly the business deal that we can strike, and then bring it back to each city, and they can decide whether they want to participate in that. I'm not sure that anybody can tell you 15 years or 20 years out what wholesale market rates would be. You just have to make a reasonable assumption and see if you're comfortable with taking that risk.
And when we built our water plant, $54 million in Pike County, we had the guarantee that we had the revenue stream coming in on a 30-year contract from Coweta County that justified being able to take that risk. And so that's where that balance, I mean, that was a conservative position, knowing you had revenue stream coming in.
You know, it's...
And that's where I think, me personally, don't want to put a burden upon our ratepayers in 18 years when Vogtle comes back to us and all of a sudden there's a surplus amount of power that we're trying to figure out how to.
You know, we may go through this RFP process and come up with a counterparty that's willing to pay everything within a 20-year term,
get it paid off
back.
and then.
So we'll have to let it play out and see whether we've got something that works where there's absolutely no risk, or here's the level of risk that we can come up with. Are you interested in participating? You know, we have some cities that are very aggressive and other cities that are very conservative. So it's a little hard to predict how it'll work out. But part of me is, if Georgia Power is doing this to a large degree and Oglethorpe, our cities are constantly comparing their rates to Georgia Power or the neighboring co-op. And if you've got more volume of energy sales and you've got fixed cost, you're spreading that out on a broader basis, so your recovery of the fixed cost is less per kilowatt that you sell. And it would put them in a more competitive position if we don't do, if the MEAG cities are 7.5% of the Georgia electrical supply, and we don't do any of this, and these other folks increase their load by 10 or 15%, it will impact our competitiveness. So, you know, if it ends up being a bad deal for these other folks, that could improve your position. But if it works and they structure contracts where they don't have risk and they've got more kilowatt hour sales to spread these fixed costs over, it'll affect the city's competitiveness. Right now, we're on aggregate, we're very competitive with Georgia Power and the co-ops. In individual cities, it may be different depending on the co-op they're next to, but overall, I think we're in a very good position. And, you know, if there was a change in administration and you went back to more of a democratic, where they want to really put emphasis on carbon emissions, we're got double the non-emitting resources as the co-ops or Georgia Power. So If we need to build out the non-emitting, it's a lot smaller percentage of the portfolio and will impact the municipal cities a lot less than a Georgia Power customer or a co-op.
Anybody else have any other questions? Any wisdom from you, Mr. Whalen?
I just don't think, Jim, they gave up the handout, guidelines for large load service. We adopt those,
Well, the MEAG board,
what y'all do, I mean,
yeah,
I want us to get in a position where we can respond if we get an inquiry that we want to do so in coordination.
Yeah.
with VA.
like the MEAG board approved those policies, and you're free to share that with anybody that comes in and calls on you so they can know the protocol that we're going through, and they can participate if they want to bid into the RFP. But I don't think there's anything locally that you would need to do vis-a-vis that policy at this point in time.
You did, I think, a year and a half ago at the Mayor Summit, November, y'all had mentioned that cities needed to look at their ordinance regards to people having, by right or by demand, they could
Yeah.
get your service. I think there was there was a caution out there, hey, you need to make sure your current policy is set where you have the right to reject someone
Yeah, you don't want
based on
to.
the size of their load, so they don't come in and take everything and make you become
You
a
don't want to
burden.
be obligated to serve this load and have to buy the resources off the market or build something. You want it to be your choice and you to control that, so.
So that's something we need to look at, Mr. Whalen, in terms of checking our ordinance and make sure we've got a cap on what we're required to provide.
It would be customer choice if it gets to that high of a
Yeah.
load, then you wouldn't have to bid on that.
Any other questions? Well, Jim and Paul, thank y'all for being here today.
Well, appreciate your time, and
Yes, sir.
like I said, we're happy to come out again if you have more questions, so
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
All right, moving into item 2 is discuss alternative solutions to replacing broken downtown tree grates. Public Works Operations Manager Josh Lee will address. Welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
So this is going to be two-parted. I'm going to do a short presentation in here, and then right outside customer service, we actually have a tree grate we're going to do a demonstration on with this product. So as you know, right now, all the tree grates in the downtown area are cast iron. Historically, that's what we've always used, and there's several issues with them. They're prone to breaking. They're extremely heavy. There's a lot of upkeep and maintenance due to, as the tree grows, we have to expand the growth ring, which once we knock that ring out, if we ever have to replace a tree with a smaller one, we in turn have to replace the grate because there's no putting it back. But also as roots grow, it starts creating walkability issues, as well as uneven surfaces. So we have come across a product that could potentially solve this issue. FlexiPave by KBI has created a porous tree surround system. That's the samples that you were just given is actually the material. It's completely porous, water goes through it. It actually has filtering properties for the water that's going through it, so it is actually healthier for the trees. But also, it reduces a lot of your ADA issues as far as trip hazards, and we can actually repair this where an iron tree grate we can't.
How do you repair this?
You can actually just cut out the section that is either raised up and pour it right back in, reseal over the top of it, and looks just as good as new.
Is it like polyurethane or what is it?
I'm actually going to
Sorry,
default
I'm
to the man
extra.
that's going to have a little more information.
Okay. Sorry about that. My kids tell me I'm extra, so.
Good morning, you all.
Good morning.
Mr. Mayor.
Sounds like
My
Robert.
name's Kevin Bagnall, I'm from KBI. The material was actually manufactured first in 2001, so we're about 24 years old. To answer your question, it's a single component urethane,
Okay.
totally benign, has a VOC rating on 0.02, but when cured, 0.000. We have quite some accolades of install: Arlington Cemetery, Smithsonian Institute, outside Buckingham Palace, believe it or not, and also 7-year contracts in Yellowstone Park over these last 24 years. If I may, a little bit of history about this product, okay? In 2001, KBI was tasked with creating a high tonnage takeout of recycled tire granule to commoditize it, to give it value. FlexiPay became the material to do that. We have installed in every state of the Union, Caribbean, Latino countries, overseas, Australia, London, you name it, everywhere. We are headquartered in Clearwater, Florida. You can tell by my accent I'm not from there. I'm a Northern English redneck, so there you go. But anyway, apart from that, it's a very successful material, and I applaud Josh for bringing this to your, to this itinerary. So, because the material makes a lot of sense. We've had some fantastic success with this material over the years. I'll give you an example. City of Key West, about 19 years ago, or thereabouts, which you now have a case study on that. Has anybody been in Key West? Key West, yes. Duval Street, we know the bars, we know all goes on down there. People come out, they trip, they fall, then before you know it, the city's got a lawsuit.
Yeah.
They had a $5,000 nuisance lawsuit payout instantly because of that problem. We did all the tree surrounds down Duval Street. In fact, we trained the local municipal worker called our Green Partnership Program, which is very successful. And basically, they installed every tree surround. We zeroed these nuisance lawsuits, and that came straight back off the maintenance budget of Key West. Over $250,000 was saved in first 1 year one. So that's just a little bit about product. It's made from recycled tires, granule, and a special sauce. Okay, that's about it. You can ask any question, I'll answer. But this is Josh's show, so.
Is it,
that okay?
Cost-wise, if you did like golf cart paths and stuff like that, is it less expensive than concrete installation, or is it relatively the same, or?
This is a very popular question, Mr. Mayor, and I've got a stock answer for that.
Yes.
Okay. The answer is, if you can use asphalt or concrete, you won't use us.
Okay.
But we are to be used where asphalt or concrete cannot perform. In other words, we can be used juxtaposed with asphalt or concrete. For example, cart paths where you've got large trees and you've got constant root intrusion, maintenance problem, cracking. You know,
Right.
we know all about that, okay? Because the moisture's underneath the asphalt and concrete. With this, the air goes down, the moisture goes down, the tree roots go down. Just simple hydrology, okay? We're about 2.5 times the cost of asphalt. But again, we're not there to be used where asphalt is, or if that answers your question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Okay.
just curious.
So what would be the lifespan of this
The lifespan
around
of
the
that-
tree group? Sure.
Our oldest install is about 24 years old. I'll give you an example of that. We did a tree surround, we did a street down in Pinellas County, Florida. That's where we're headquartered in Clearwater. Live oaks every 20 feet on one side, live oaks on 20 feet on the other side. Concrete, FlexiPay. 47 times they have been to repair the concrete, shave it off, recast, so on and so forth. Guess how many times for FlexiPay?
1.
0. We don't crack. We flex, even in freeze-thaw conditions. And we can actually install in freezing conditions, which we have done in Yellowstone Park. We did 7-year contract there. We did all the trails, pathways, all around the geyser basin. Very, very prestigious project, I'll tell you that. So, does that answer your question?
Sure. Does it keep its color?
Okay, everything fades. Okay. However, we can make any color. We can make concrete color, and the way that we do that is, if we want to make it concrete color, we'll go after the fact and overspray with elastic spray. We don't lose any porosity at all. We can make it pink, if you like it, right? Which we have done in Fort Lauderdale, by the way. But the colour is pretty resilient. The slip resistance is way above ADA, by the way. And the tree surrounds it while we're here will actually save you a lot of maintenance dollars and also slip and fall because it expands contracts and everything else, okay? It has a lot of attributes that the engineering community has indeed taught us over the years, believe it or not, from their point of view, okay?
My last question, sediment that collects over time into the porous area.
Fantastic question.
Do you have to like do a treatment on it in terms of pressure wash it or anything to maintain it?
We're talking silt loading, Mr. Mayor. That's what we're talking about. All right, now, there are other porous surfaces out there. You've got porous concrete, you've got porous asphalt. Porous asphalt and porous concrete have a void capacity of around 13% emptiness. And it's static. It doesn't move, it doesn't fluctuate, it doesn't, expand contract. FlexiPave has 23% emptiness. And it expands and contracts, so it flexes within itself. So the fines that would normally clog up a porous surface, they're moving through the material. We did a stormwater study with the University of Central Florida many, many years ago for that particular reason. And we loaded up the road, or the trail, 20 feet wide, and we actually weighed the soil going in. And we then weighed the soil that we sucked back out. Guess how much percentage we got back out?
99.
104%. We were sucking out the fines that were already in the subgrade. That's how this material cleans itself.
So you got to suck it at a certain. You gotta go
No, not at all, sir. We've not. Over the years, we've not gone back to any one area to suck it out.
Okay.
It cleans and it flushes itself out.
Okay. Gotcha.
But there's also another property to this material, which is very important. There's two major important parts to this. We actually breed a biofilm within the material pore space. That biofilm is a good bacteria because it eats 86% of dissolved nitrates and dissolved orthophosphorus that are caused by nutrient loading, caused by fertilizers and pesticides. That is a biggie when you're putting the area of install around open water body supplies because we passively remove nutrient loading. The next one is hydrostatic pressure release. If it's doing 3,000 gallons going down, it's doing 3,000 gallons going up per square foot. That means if we have a massive flood event and the receding waters are trying to get back out, they will pop off concrete and pop off asphalt, not with FlexiPave. It could come back out as a relief mechanism. It's a very important factor. Okay? How did I do, Josh? All right?
And the cost of this I saw was significantly less than us replacing the grates.
Yeah. Thank you.
Currently, the cast iron grates that we're using run anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 per tree. FlexiPave right now, you're looking approximately $175 per tree. So,
Are there any communities close to us that currently use this?
well, the biggest one that I know of so far is Savannah. Savannah's actually using it extensively.
We pay for this out of TAD? Is that the plan?
Downtown.
The downtown ones? So we want to go through a tour?
Probably budgeted to even repair and maintenance of the streets if we have to do the tree days.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are we going to do with the existing grates?
Honestly, the majority of them need to be replaced as is right now. They're in some need of replacement.
Broken.
Scrap metal.
And that's why we're trying to look at options that might better serve us long-term versus the cast
So
iron.
is these scrap iron or something? Or?
Yeah.
Good.
Cool. So we want to take a tour?
Yes, sir.
Let's roll.
Out front.
Right out front.
Come on.
Whoever wants.
Field trip.
I was in Yellowstone getting the guys.
Well, that's why I wore shorts. I gotta go back to the doctor again today at 11 o'clock.
going this way, y'all? No, this way. Looks like a, I'll give them running. This is the house.
Me too. True breaks and stuff, I think.
Which comes back that their part in the transmission just the transmission is 69. And they're like, yeah, let's proceed. Talk about generation. And I'm like, yes. Huge. I wish I owned that property. That they just sold. I mean, it was a lot of money. Jeez Louise. It's scary though. I mean, it's, it could be a really good opportunity, isn't it? But you've got to mitigate that risk for very tight contracts and long-term contracts. That makes sense. I know that the owners require, if they put in that transmission piece, they're required that they follow it up front. There's no payment plan, like you pay for it upfront. And that's what I do on the contract, is they will mitigate the cost. I mean, they'll mitigate the risk for us. Whereas, yeah.
Is this because of the data center put on top of it?
There's two, there are we don't necessarily, we have to decide what we want. We don't have that kind of, I mean, we don't have that kind of generation, so it's gonna, that's what this was about, whether we want to pursue it or not. Because they're gonna have to build transmission to be able to use some substation, they will have to put in their own substation at their cost. They will have to pay for that. And then enter into like a long-term contract to do the generation piece of it, which could mean significant up on what, everybody, for power, for occupancy, everybody. No, we're in a good position. Yes, we're in a good position. So, because we'll be in a really good position. Not that I want prices to jack up, that's not good for overall. But we would be in a good position as a city to not have problem market. We'll be able to sell into that and make it. We're not 18 megawatts. We're in a good spot that way. I mean, 18 megawatts for these people is nothing. I mean, we're, you know, nobody would have time. So pulling it over, see like, we have some of our old people, they're entertaining, they're wanting cities to enter into like a long-term IPT. And that's what I was talking to Jessica about, is that you need to take a more conservative risk and still have money. Or you could take a higher risk and be providing city, you know, it's just a matter of what we want to do. And then the regards our kids, parents talking about is, they're gonna be pulling the hyperscalers, like big, whoever can pay the most and mitigate the risk of the city, then you're gonna talk about more of a long-term, push power agreement, you know, like you did buy into it, like you did with both, all these other plans. But it was, that. So, and there's lots of different options. I mean, I think that they're gonna have to think about that. Also, some other, there's this newer concept out there, which is not even, it's not there yet, it's not clear about anything. But it's the smaller nuclear reactors, which you can kind of set on site. I think that's gonna be the future world that we live in. But, I mean, it's not even gone through any of the energy approval stuff, the method. I know. On their device. I'm not getting some. And I'm Right. But he is very, and I told you, yesterday I talked to him on the phone. 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, but you'll lose it. Like, you need to keep it short and sweet, as short and sweet as you can, but you'll lose it. And he did go over it, but, you know, he did. And I mean, 30 minutes is a little. Right.
Oh, I sit back there and watch. I can tell that each one starts falling out.
Well, I know that Doug is very interested, so he was like, he was the one that was, you know.
Lose this side, other dies first, then lose this side second.
Yeah. this industry works, are they gonna become more efficient? Are they gonna change their whole method of how they need that power? You know, and are they gonna need all of this 500 megawatts power in 20 years? You know? Yes. That's where you almost got to hold to look for the duration of like the life of it somehow. You know? Me too. Yes. 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 Which I feel good about. I mean, they're never going to, they're gonna like lead it to know that it's safe, secure, like, you know, for all the cities, for all of them, not just Griffin, not just any one city, as a whole. So I do a really good job of that. The thing is, I did not come to like this because that's not what it's all about. And without, because it's plant here, it's not that long ago. And every conference, everything that I went to the first several years was low growth clinic computers flat. It was this like it's gonna be big, and it's gonna be small. It's gonna be, you know, just very marginal, very small. What if this is on how did every single power, like the Georgia Power, the EDCs, the MEACs, how did they do this? I know. How does that even happen? That's scary to me. Yes. 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 I know she does have a power wall. If she has a distinct wall. We see power wall. Are we up? Are we all? I do.
There's an exception.
basically shot it, 37 on the first day. Did it all the time. And it didn't barely miss one putty, but it didn't scratch off.
It's a souvenir.
Your new coaster for you cut it in half.
I got leave by 10:45, so
We'll go with.
I know we should be in here all
I've got
day.
an executive session too.
You know, these people going into these data centers, do they not pay the money up front? I mean, they just,
I want the one on High Falls Road to annex into the city.
yeah, you know, out by the airport.
Right, the one there. I want that to be annexed to the city.
All right.
So would you like consensus from the board at this time in regards to moving forward with? Okay. Feeling of the board on this option?
I like it.
I like it.
I concur.
Okay. Great. Let's move forward with that. All right, moving into discussion, commission vision. So,
How many of those things are we gonna use? How many trees have we got?
it's 4 per block.
Okay.
1, 2.
The deal gets on my nerves.
So it's not that much of a cost.
How many trees, how many great trees was replaced?
Just curious.
Probably.
It's a
Okay.
great savings though.
Yeah.
Fine, it's in.
You like those savings?
I love the savings.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll open this up for any statements, comments at this time from board members.
Concerning vision,
Item 3.
Item 3. Ms. Ward?
Yeah.
Okay.
What, it's not.
Well, I mean, you asked for us to put this on the agenda, so I'm.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, in actuality, the earlier part of the year, I had made go back to the early part of the year. The latter part of last year. When we did on our assessment of our only employee, there was an issue that appeared during the meeting that I feel like at this time, for myself, I don't know about anybody else, that I was not able to fully do exactly what it was that I felt like I needed to do during the evaluation. So this has been bothering me since then. And later I've come back and I've asked for us to have a retreat or a meeting of us as a board of commissioners in order to discuss different things like succession planning, issues that we feel like we've had with hiring and firing practices, just things. And for whatever reason, we've had a consensus from the board to do this. But just recently, it has been said that we should wait until the earlier part of next year, after the election. I don't know why that is so. But the issues, I feel like I would have loved to have been able to do this in a place, in a way so that we could come together as a board and get all of the issues worked out. I had made a statement last year about, for the longest time, I've tried to be a team player. I have been a team player. But I'm feeling like now I've been a team player to the detriments of the people that I've represented. And it was not my intention to run for re-election. And I don't know if I'll be back, but I feel like I have an obligation to my constituency to try to make known, or to, I don't want the word to be exposed, but to try to write some of the stuff that for 24 years I've sit by, and it has not been the whole 24 years, sit by and watch happen and re-happen. It's going to be hard for me to sit up here and say the same things I've said, because I've seen injustice. I've seen what I have perceived, and my perception is my reality, as blatant discrimination. I've seen not only in the community, but I've seen it from the personnel staff. And if we think that if there's something that can be done now, I like for it to be done. If not, I want to make sure that my constituents know that I have gone and helped to abuse them in closed session. And I'm just not willing to do that anymore. All the time that I thought that I was a team player, what I realize now, the team was working against me. And I've seen myself and other commissioners undermined and abused and harassed and bullied in closed session. And I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just tired. I'm not going to do it anymore. And if it means that I have to go down this long list of the same things I've been saying, especially since evaluation, our city manager's evaluation last year, then I will. So, there it is.
Anybody else have any comments they'd like to, Ms. Rose?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Curtis.
I see some of the same things that Commissioner Ward sees, which I have been seeing them for a long time. I'm not new in the city of Griffin, and I'm not new to injustice. I'm just new to the board. But I came in knowing right from wrong. I've seen some right, but I've seen a whole lot of wrong. Especially when it comes to my district and to the inner city, be it black or white who live there. I see a lot of stuff that I don't like. When it comes to the condition of the neighborhood, it's a lot of stuff I really doesn't like. I don't like the fact that once we have this sign that says 1 Griffin. But when you travel throughout District 1, 2 and 6, it looks like it's a whole nother city. Our city manager, with all due respect, she does a good job, and this is nothing personal. But my main object is to be the city manager for the entire city of Griffin. When I see trees down and trash not picked up and darkness in the neighborhood and residents complaining about the high utility bills, even though those districts pay the highest utility bills, I don't like the fact that I don't want to sign racist because I'm not. I don't like injustice. We're going to get that straight. A while back when we voted on this alcohol bill, my opinion was that you didn't want black businesses downtown. And all kind of stipulations was thrown at them. Now we have another one that I stay constantly in contact with. And there's something that isn't right about that either. But what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter if you black, blue, green. If you want to put a legal business downtown the city of Griffin to make it prosper, we should do all we can without putting the pencil to everything. I've had so many young men and women, and I'm using the word of color, that have came to me and they have had a hard time just to get a shed built in the backyard. It costs them way more than normal. Or they go through all this rigmarole. They goes to planning and development, and I have stated plenty of times, a lot of them are being spoke to nasty, of all race. That need to change. I'm concerned about our youth. I'm concerned about the pool. I'm concerned because there's not any activity for our youth to do. That pool has been closed over 20 years, maybe even longer. But I don't want to wait another 20 years for that pool to open. Kids in my district, in District 6 and District 1, will and shall not feel less than. And I say that because of the big pool that was built out near the country where they cannot arrive to. I don't like that. I never have and I never will. I want to see some concrete stuff for the kids in the inner city where they can enjoy their summer without being ran by the police or hanging on the corner, to give them something to do, a playground. And I take, for example, like Raymond Head Park. Well, I voted for that precinct over there. And that's fine. They do a lot of good stuff and everything over there. But I also wanted and was told it would be different in the park. Like new playground equipment could be there. New bleachers and new grills. It's just that, I mean, this is some of the stuff that I want to see. I want to see you clean up the district just like it's on this side of town. When I say this side of town, I mean on the opposite side of the railroad track. I want it all to look the same so we can become a one Griffin. Because right now, we're not looking at like one Griffin. Everything is going downtown and beyond. And that's something I don't want to see. And what I'm saying is, Jessica does a good job. Maybe Jessica need help in doing her job. I don't know. But what I'm saying is to the board, I know I'm new on the board, but I've been dealing with people for over 20-something years. Don't take what I say. Please, just don't take it for granted. Because I'm in here for my constituents and to all the citizens in Griffin, either one that calls me for help. That's what I'm here for. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sure. Is there anybody else? So we will have our annual retreat in January that we normally have, that we as a board, as a team, and I thought this year when we did our goal session was a better option. We can go back to the way it was where the staff brings their reports, or we can continue to try to work on goals and in the direction that we want to go. So y'all's district's my district. Y'all's votes are, your concerns are for?
I understand. No, I ain't gonna say I understand what you're saying.
Yes,
I'm not
ma'am.
gonna say that. I'm not gonna even tell that lie. The majority of this board agreed as a consensus to at midterm to have a session where we could set goals. Now, I'm just going to be candid with you. During our closed session, when the city attorney called me, a 24-year veteran commissioner, a racist in the meeting, that threw me completely off. So whatever goals I had, that just went out the window. Now, when that happened, not one commissioner other than McCord said something. Now, later, everybody said, well, oh, that was awful, that was awful. It didn't piss me off. But if we as a board will allow that to happen, what are we allowing to happen in the community? Now, I got a whole list of goals that I've been toting around since last year evaluation. But because I was thrown off, none of my goals have been answered. Our government is a weak mayor government. My concern has been that we're not operating as a weak mayor government. Anything that happens, regardless of whether it's in a position where decisions have to be made, sometimes I feel like deals are being brokered and the consensus of the board is not there. There's a lot of things that I have concerns about. When we talked about hiring and firing practices and equity in that, basically what our city attorney has told us is because the federal government says that we don't have to do that. It does not, because we don't have to, we're not doing it. So what you see is a disparity in the makeup, the racial makeup of the employees. The majority of the people in the community are African Americans and Hispanics. But our workforce does not reflect that. We have repeatedly asked that we come up with a plan. There's no way we would ever be able to hire enough race minority to make it reflect what it looked like Well, we're not even insisting that be done. I don't know. We are. I'll take that back. I know. I ain't gonna even tell that lie. They're in hiring and firing practices. There is just so much that the more I look at it, the more I see what I'm gonna go back and say this. I don't know even in firing practices. It depends on who you are as to how you're allowed to leave. And firing, if you're fired or if you're retired, some are able to leave fired and go. Some are able to leave, should be fired, with a glowing recommendation and go right out somewhere else and get another job. But some are sent out, and I've repeatedly said this. Some are forced out. There's just it's some stuff that's going on, like I said, and I've tried my best to be a team player, but I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. When we had that issue with the police department and Chief Yates, every one of those police officers on the cage unit were able to leave here and go somewhere else and get a job. We spent out a bunch of money, but we kept it from the people in the black community that had been abused. Not one black citizen in this community was able to be made whole from what had happened. It ain't right. It's not right. And that's not the only thing that we've done. It's not right. I could be the only one that feel like this, but I don't think I am. We went into coming up budget time. We were told that we were not going to have a balanced budget. We sent the department head back to cut the budget. Shortly after we passed the budget, it was decided that we had to didn't have a bit of problem, increase the pay scale, pay study. The people that made the least amount of money and did the hardest work got the least amount of money. The ones that needed it the most got the least amount. And then we come back, not even 2 weeks later, and say, "Oh, we balance the budget. We found some money." We had been asking for something for talking about a pool because we knew the county was going to leave our children out. When it was decided that we had this extra money, not extra money, the money was there, we decided, it was decided that we would give the employees a raise to bring them up to more than what everybody else was making so that we could retain employees. It was decided we would give a tax cut so that our citizens, property owners, would not have to, we would not have to increase the millage rate. Had we been told as a board, everybody been on the same page, at that point we could have said, well, let's do something in the city for our children. We were never given the option. And now we still dragging around trying to figure out, well, we got to do a study, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. It is not the intent of this board and this city to build a pool or anything else for our children. It is not the intent. The intent is to wait until next year when y'all hopefully thinking another board is going to come on, that me and Rodney and Holly and them might be gone. It's not, and Truman, might be gone. And somebody else going to have to start over. Come on, man, y'all.
The intent on the spot was for the county to build splash pads.
I'm not talking about the county.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the county. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us in the city.
Yes, ma'am.
We already know when you decided that you were going to agree with the county at the last minute, and they screwed us over.
In regard to the lost,
Yeah, they screwed us over.
they screwed
So
us
ain't
over,
nothing-
but
ain't there's
we've
nothing else to say.
also,
They
but we've
screwed us over.
also increased SPOS revenue. Lost that revenue has continued to increase based on the economic growth of our community. So it is, the
I'm
revenue
not talking
is-
about the money. What I'm talking
I
about
understand.
is they screwed us over,
Yes, ma'am.
and
Just like they did with us on the Development Authority.
it is not
back-
their intent to provide anything in the city for our children and for a lot of the other residents in the city. Animal control, they ain't studying us. They're not going to do it. And you know why? Because they have wimped us so, and we have tried to play deals and stuff instead of going ahead and taking care of our folks like we should. And we're still holding, oh, we have the money, but we gotta do a study for this and a study for that, and it'll be, first of all, it's not the intent. It is not the intent to build a pool or a splash pad in the park or anywhere else. All we're gonna do is kick the ball down the road to hopefully some of us gone, and it'll still be the same. It's the same thing.
There shouldn't be no more excuses for helping these kids out or giving our youth something to do. Shouldn't be no more excuses. Should be moving forward. You want the city to move forward. Let us all move forward as a board, as a city. Kids need something to do. There's nothing for them to do in the city of Griffin. I mean, nothing. And it's our job to try and find them something to do. And I know that pool had always been a great access to the city of Griffin, even in my life, and I'm 65 years old. But it's been so many years that we can't just get a pool for them. I mean, without all the pushing this back and pushing this back, been over 20 years. Do it. Just do it. Find the land or whatever you need to do and just do it. Build it. Just like they did at that Aquatic Center. It's not that hard to do. Put it on the agenda. Tell the public. Stop. Just let the citizen know
Another thing,
that we're working for them.
I believe when we went to the General Assembly years ago to change the mayor from all we did was basically what my understanding is, all we did was change the name from at large to mayor. Now, looking back, I feel like the way that the rules that we played by were set up to make sure that there was never an opportunity for anybody that was already on the board to ever be mayor without compromising their position. Now, in my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is these decisions should have been made by the board as to what would go to the General Assembly. We have a weak mayor form of government. So, if I myself, if I wanted to run for mayor on the off year, I have to give up my seat that I've been elected to for 4 years to run for mayor. And if I did not win, I would lose my other 2 years that I've been elected for. Because we have a weak mayor form of government, why was it decided that who decided that, okay, we're going to do it on this year. Now, you, Rose, Brad, on that year, you don't have to give up your seat, but if the rest of us wanted to run, we have to give up our seat. I don't see any fairness in that. And whatever it is that we need to do, amend it for the General Assembly, I think that needs to be done. It's just, I feel like a lot of times that I'm the employee and we're being controlled, that we're not the last say so, that we're being controlled. I ask that we have a facilitator to come in to help us figure out a succession plan. We don't need a succession plan just for staff employees. We need a succession plan. If something happened to our city attorney today, what do we do? Is he the keeper of everything that we have, or do we have it? How when we pay him a salary, does he make anything other than that? What did he get from off the contract? This is stuff that now I feel like we need to know.
I appreciate you bringing your concerns. And again, like any family or any business, there are trials, there's challenges, there's celebrations. And me personally, I've always tried to approach it as a team effort. Whether we're on one side or the other, and you may disagree, but I'm concerned as much as about what happens on the north side, District 1, 2, or 6, as any other district. I respond to constituents, whether it's on Maple Drive or whether it's someone calling me yesterday at Amberwood in terms of trash dumpsters, taking pictures, which I'll bring to the attention of the city manager, or looking and checking and seeing what's being built in terms of housing, whether they're using vinyl siding on the front of a building. I care about the quality of this community. I'm concerned about doing everything possible to create opportunities for future generations to come back to Griffin or to move to Griffin. But it takes a team working together and trusting each other. Because if you don't have trust, we have nothing. If we don't have trust, we might as well all go home and forget what we're doing here. And if we don't trust each other, I mean, and this board has grown. This board has come from being a 4-3 vote for the first couple years of my journey to being 7-0. But it's always been a family, in my opinion, trying to work together. And I'm sorry personally if I've done anything to offend you, Cynthia, or Rose, or anybody else. I'm here for the greater good of everybody in this community. I love this town. But unfortunately, we don't have the ability to be individual dictators to say to direct staff to do anything. We have to basically follow what our laws and our ordinances say, whether it's personnel ordinances.
What the charter says.
What the charter says, or what the law or the ordinance is. It's staff's interpretation. We can't bend off.
And basically what it says is the majority of the board, whatever the majority of the board members say, that's the direction.
Yes, ma'am.
But that don't seem to be happening now. And for me,
and there are folks that end up. Well, to me, it was a problem when certain commissioners got brought into a police command meeting to hear what was going on in the community. I had a problem with that.
Is that what now?
When members of our board got invited to go to the police department earlier this year for a command meeting to hear what was going on. And the other board members weren't invited to.
I don't know anything about that.
I'm just saying there are things that happen, and there are also things that happen when they're on different boards and committees that we serve on. You're the liaison to the housing authority. We let you represent the board in terms of our positions with the housing authority. Most of the housing council issues, you take ownership and responsibility for that. We have board members on transportation committees. We have a board member that represents us. So each of us goes as a liaison and sometimes a voting member to different boards and committees to represent the board, represent the interest of this community on those different groups. I'm on the Legislative Policy Committee on GMA, Federal Policy Committee of GMA. I'm on the Post Review Board now for GMA. I've been on the Municipal Training Board for the last 4.5 years. And I don't go there I go there as a representative of the interest of all the citizens of Griffin and Spalding County that we serve. And so,
I understand what you're saying.
I'm saying I'm there to do the best interest.
Since you brought that up,
ma'am.
let me tell you this.
Yes, ma'am.
I sit on the whatever the board is.
GSBTA.
I'm also supposed to be sitting on the downtown council.
Yes, ma'am.
What I feel like about the downtown council is basically what it is I want to be nice when I say this. So let me think a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
it feels to me like it's a glorified event committee.
That's what it is. It's promotions committee.
Okay,
It's the arm of Main
what
Street
what
Board.
it does is, you have people on there that's planning events that never services the people across the track. You know, you made me tell you say this. When you have events, there's nobody on those committees that is looking out for the welfare. Well, maybe these children over here might want to come down and enjoy the majority of people across the track in my district and other districts are excluded from that. The same thing for the actual downtown entertainment district. It feels to me like, and this is just my opinion, ain't nobody's opinion but mine, we have done, instead of trying to help black businesses that come downtown, we've done everything we could to make sure that we get them up and down here. We've done everything we could to make sure that they don't succeed, that we set up rules. And I'm gonna use this as one thing. We set up the rules. We came up with these rules. The rules were the rule was set up as an issue against what's Malcolm Place?
Malcolm's.
Yeah, smoking margaritas. But as soon as we realized that what we enforced as smoking margaritas was going to affect Tipsy Daisy, we changed the rule.
The rule wasn't changed because the rule was, there was a proposed rule that did not go into effect, and through town hall meetings and discussions, there was compromise brought that all could agree to, including Malcolm's, Tipsy Daisy, and anybody else that had a bar. Because I know that we discussed it in
But it was
public.
changed because Tipsy Daisy said that it would hurt their business.
Tipsy Daisy
so you
brought
couldn't change it for them without changing it for Malcolm.
Tipsy Daisy brought other business patrons together for the discussion. It was every business brought there. Now back to downtown council. June Jam is a very diverse group of citizens that are there. Close to 3,000 to 4,000 people show up for that event. The downtown council works diligently to try to bring diverse music venues. We were supposed to have Sir Toot singing this past time. We have changed the format of how we do our events in the past and the future in regards to the music festival is now turned into more of a June Jam atmosphere to be more open and not exclusive. We're changing the Feast on East event that's coming up this fall to be more of a food truck free event for other folk, for people to come. Again, we beg and plead for folks to step out to help and move tables and to pick up the trash and to be there. The problem isn't that we don't have our problem is that we have a lacking of people wanting to be givers, and they want to be takers. They don't want to give their energy and their time and effort. And I can tell you, my sweat, my tear, my pain of working to bring people to downtown. I mean, we do the community cleanups. I know I've been to 3 of the 6. I know Mr. McCord has been at 3 of the 6 of the events that we've already had, and we got 3 more out picking up trash, trying to make a difference in this community, supporting our city staff. Our problem is that we need people to step up and commit to changing the greater good of this community, to be scout leaders, to be coaches, to create. On Tuesdays, I'm out playing chess at New Horizon New Direction with middle schoolers. People being volunteers like your husband, making a difference in the lives of children. That's my philosophy is of taking ownership of a challenge and trying to make a difference one life at a time. And so
We cannot make people volunteer. We cannot make citizens do
I understand,
anything.
but the people
what
that are
we
doing the
can
downtown
do, what we
events are
can do,
volunteers that are
what
willing
we
to
can
work
do is
and
when
show
people
up.
come into City Hall
Yes, ma'am.
and city
We
government,
treat people with kindness.
it show a reflection
Yes.
of people, whether they will feel like they want to be a part of it. When you in planning and development, you come in there, there's nobody of color in the planning and development department, and according to what a lot of the people are saying, they have the hardest time. They don't feel welcome, and they're getting so much pushback on what it is they're trying to do. Who won't be a part of that?
But they're following what the rules and our ordinances say that you have to follow. You can't make exceptions.
You can tell people. I know a lot of times people, when they don't want to hear what's being said.
There was a gentleman up there, a gentleman yesterday went up there to read teetotal cane about mattresses and stuff dumped around a dumpster at Amberwood. I've got the pictures. I went up there after talking with him with a somewhat nasty attitude. And by the time I got done talking with him, and the staff were as kind, as courteous as could, he was appreciative and almost apologetic in terms of his attitude. And so we can always do better. And I want us to be exceptional. And I think everyone on this board wants us to be exceptional. But we can't undermine the authority of our directors in our department in terms of going behind their back and trying to say, well, you need to go do a special service this or we need to treat everybody the same based on what our rules and our policies are. And that's why I think we raise that bar, as Mr. McCord says, we raise the bar to the greater good of this community. I can't help it the county did not put the swimming pool at City Park. I begged, I pleaded, till I beat my head trying to get the county commission, including the black representatives, to see the light of how good it would be to keep the swimming pool in the city. And I'm still pushing to this day for them to put a splash pad with impact fees, as they said they were going to do in City Park and Fairmont Community. I think, me personally, that would go a long way in terms of building trust and faith back from the county commission, but it's their responsibility as being responsible for park and recreation activities in this community. That's their duty. That's their responsibility. That's why they're getting what they get in regards to Lost. They've got the money available to do it, but it's us as a team pushing them to do the right thing. Now, if they're not going to do it and we want to spend...
We can't make them do nothing.
I know.
How much we push.
And does it make you feel good that our teammate won't be willing to play? Our relative on the other side won't do the right thing, in our opinion? They think we're screwing them just as bad as...
If I could,
Yes.
Mr. Holberg,
Yes.
Since my name has been mentioned.
I'm sorry.
Just a few times. And I'm always attentive and grateful for healthy discussions. And I think from this discussion, and I'm going to be very candid, I am I don't want to say a fan, a fanatic, but the city manager has been very receptive. Anything that I have asked, I've always gotten an answer to. So for the record, I'm Team Jessica. I'm gonna go out front and say that. I'm also Team Ms. Ward, because we've served during some tumultuous times and to some times that I find myself knowing that is my biggest ally on the board. She is my biggest ally. We think a lot alike. We see things a lot of times out of the same lenses. I think from our discussion this morning, I think we need to continue the search for a facilitator, that we can get a meeting that we can all come together, talk about some of these visions. I understand, Ms. Curtis, about wanting to just move on these things, I would love to. I wish we could just go out tomorrow and say, we're going to put a swimming pool, we're going to put a splash pad, but it is, even though that it sounds great, there are steps you have to take to do that. And I think the staff, the city manager needs an opportunity to be able to express that we're all working on the same things. The community cleanups, it was a great opportunity to get out, to see the city from a different side, see what our staff sees every day. And I'm not talking about staff that sits downtown. I'm talking about the people who, public works and from the sanitation department, that have to go out and see this stuff. And being a part of that was very helpful. And I plan to be at the next one. I just think we don't need to give up, and I don't think we need to feel like whenever we have these sessions, whenever we have these moments where we need to discuss things that we're not happy about, that it is a bad thing. I don't look at it as anything bad. I hate that we're doing it in this setting, but I don't ever look at it as being bad. It's better that we talk about these things. It's better that we understand where other people are, the way that they feel. Now, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna piggyback off what Ms. Ward says. And I was telling, I think I was telling Jessica about it yesterday, Ms. O'Connor. When you go into planning and zoning, whether you get amazing customer service or not, culturally, for African Americans, and I'm speaking for this black man, African American of African descent, when I go into a place, when I walk in there, there's always a question, and it just comes culturally. Is this place going to be friendly to me? Will these people help me? And so when you get in a situation where you don't receive help, or they give you an answer that you don't like, regardless of how nice they were, how cordial they were, there's a part in me, I can only speak for me, that sometimes questions it. Now, I have city manager's office. Those ladies, some of them can come to the cookout. I mean, it's just, and you'll get what I'm saying, but you wouldn't know. And the race of the people by the help that you get. But for me, because I know them, I've had an opportunity to speak with all of them. But for a visitor that's coming in, it's a cultural thing. It's something that I've experienced. You go to a restaurant, you're trying to see where do I sit? Is there anyone in here like me? Which everybody in there may be the nicest, and the person that looks like you may be the one that wants to stab you in the back. But it's just a cultural thing, and I don't think having these discussions, having it here is not my idea of doing it. But I think having those discussions, those honest discussions, is not a bad thing. It's something that periodically we need to do. We need to have these type of discussions. I don't want anybody to take anything that we're saying personal. When y'all report back to planning and zoning and say what I said, it's not anything personal. It's just the lens that some people look at. We had a citizen earlier this year, went down, had a situation with planning and zoning, and she reported back to me, and I think Ms. Rose mentioned it, that, hey, she knew she was not going to get any help. When she explained to me what happened, I immediately called the person that I'm supposed to call, the city manager. The city manager took advisement of what I said. That lady came back, she said it will be handled. Citizen went down, had a problem again, talked to the city manager again. Everything was handled. It was taken care of. We are not dealing with AI or robots. We're dealing with human beings. And human beings will have off days. Human beings will make mistakes. Human beings do come with bias. And sometimes that happens. But if we at the top, if we're able to communicate that and have people to see things, not just hear them and not listening to them, but to see and have these exercises, these moments where we get an opportunity to speak to one another. So you listen with understanding. The best thing in the world is understanding. So you just understand where it's coming from. When Ms. Commissioner Curtis mentions that she would like to see every side of the town look the same, I understand exactly what she's talking about. I go to these schools and I say every classroom, the classroom at Moore Elementary should look just like the classroom at Crescent. The lighting, the school desk, the books, everything should look the same. And it's not. When we drive down streets, they are not the same. The socioeconomic condition of the communities, the upkeep, whether it's a rental, when you drive on certain sides of town, is home ownership. When you drive on other sides of town, it's rentals. And a lot of people, now me growing up, I knew people that rented that would sweep the dirt in front of their homes because that's just the way they were raised. That was the thing. And now that I live in a mixed or diverse community, I see people who I thought would traditionally keep their yards up, they don't. And it's these lenses that we look out of. So what I understand what Ms. Curtis is saying, we want in code to come out, and the direction of this board, us, the 7 of us, should be that we want our city to be a mirror, that if you took a picture on North 6th Street and South 6th Street, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. When I've had these issues, I've called the lady sitting next to me, Miss Susan, and said, hey, I got a house and land bank authority. If you could get somebody over there, and voila, the neighbors are calling me saying, hey, it is done. So a lot of times, I think we run into these issues instead of turning a blind eye. I think Ms. Ward was with us. We went down to Rock Eagle, and I said we all are guilty of it. We ride through the neighborhoods on the north side of town, and we look and we say, hey, that's how it's always been. Everybody, the police department, we all just say, hey, that's how it's going to be. But I found that if we say something, if you're able to chart it and say something, and I'm so proud of, it's not my district, but the entire city of Griffin is my district, is Northside School. I begged and pleaded, and until something has happened, and I think those are the kind of things that we can't give up, we can't turn a blind eye when you have an opportunity to speak about things that are going on to your neighborhood, if it means alerting it to the whole board. I prefer the method of giving a city manager an opportunity, letting her direct staff into doing whatever it is that you need to be done, that you like to see done, as a liaison between the citizens and the bureaucrats, the people actually doing the work. I think that, to me, that's been the best way, and I've been able to chart that. And I also understand there are rules and regulations, and we put those in place for a reason. And when we do that, we don't need to undermine our staff by asking them to. Staff is there to do whatever this board directs. And if the board has put a law or ordinance into place, it's staff's job to go out and do that, whether it's on north side, south side, or east or west. We just need to do that. So with all this word salad I got going on, I would just hope that we still take an opportunity. We're not going to always agree all the time, but I think Ms. Ward is correct that we need a facilitator that just kind of help guide this discussion so that it does stay in a place where it's not anyone takes it personal, that we all understand we are up here for the citizens of our community to make Griffin great and growing for everyone, for all districts, for all citizens, even out into Spalding County, that we be a model government in the way we do things, and understanding that disagreements don't mean that I hate you. Disagreements don't mean that I want you out of here. Disagreements just mean I need you to know how I feel so that we can have some form of understanding.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to you, Doug. I love you.
I know, and I love you too, and that's why
And- but- and
I
I
feel
don't
your
want- I don't-
pain, and I want to.
I don't want you to think that I'm attacking you. Now, I know how you're feeling, cause you feel like, oh, I've been here with her with this right here before. It's not that, because recently I've been feeling the same thing, and I remember when I used to have to tell you all the time, until you walked a mile in my shoes, you don't know what I feel.
I don't, and I
And
understand.
we gotta have a good understanding on that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I had got to a point some years ago back where I felt like, you know, everything was working out. But lately, it's just like all of this stuff has come back. I'm not attacking you. I'm not, basically, I'm dumping the trash that's been dumped into me. And you will probably, you just do, other than probably Rose Rodney, will never be able to understand this is not about a fight against anybody. It's about the passion in my soul and the hurt that I'm feeling right, that it's been a minute. And I feel like nothing is moving. It's just like I cannot make, and y'all will probably not ever understand it from where I'm coming from. But it's just, I'm in a space where I'm just, I used to wonder when I would see my uncle, my daddy, in this space. And it's a hurting feeling, because I feel like the more we've done, the further we're going back. And it's just right now, I'm in a bad space.
But there are victories that are happening.
There's victories that are happening.
Things are happening. There are good things. The
There's good
Housing
things that's
Authority,
happening.
there's redevelopment. McNeely Apartments got leveled. Edgewood got leveled. There's new
I don't
energy.
want- I-
And
like
so
I-
I want to see not just those spots, I want to see every neighborhood redeveloped,
And I'm
reinvigorated.
gonna say this.
And I see it when I drive through. The opportunities are there that we're missing because we're not focused as a team.
I don't think, and I've made suggestions. I've made some suggestions. I think Jessica is a great city manager, but even with what I thought with a facilitator, there's something that she needs, that we need,
We all need.
in order to I want to use the right words. When things come up, for me that's racial, that seems discriminatory, that I see it that way. I want to use it. I don't want to offend nobody. I don't want to say. I think she knows her job. Well, ain't no thinking about it. I know she knows her job. And professional, legally, I do. But there's a place in me that she cannot identify with. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely.
And when these things happen, there's places, there's a GMA, there's like we go to GMA, we learn stuff. The help is there. Because some things that happen and I'm looking like, hey, y'all don't see that? But I see it. I hear it. But it's that don't register with her. It does not register with her because I'm kind of, you know.
Commissioner Ward. I am so glad that you have the strength and just whatever you have that it takes to bring these issues forward today, because I feel like listening to what everyone has said and then listening to everything that you brought forward, you are not alone. I know you asked the question, maybe y'all don't feel this way. And what I've learned on this board is that you are fair. And what I've learned through the years that I've served is that you're not afraid, and your constituents put you in this position and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do for them. And then as far as the board is concerned, what I've learned is that you're not alone. If you have these feelings, Commissioner Curtis, if you have these feelings, as a board, we have a duty to get behind you because you're not alone. And your feelings are not, they don't need to be validated by me by any means, but we have a duty to also get behind you. And when we have been in closed meetings, we should also take each other's side. And I appreciate there have been times when we haven't gotten along or when there have been issues. There have been those on this board that may give me a bump or try to take or give me, not my side, just some support. And I feel like if we could support you today and Commissioner Curtis on these issues, I see that there are a lot of injustices. I mean, we have to agree that there are. If we don't, then we're blind. And moving forward, I agree that a facilitated, like Commissioner McCord, because this can't be solved in one day. And my very first year, you might work inside the city and then you decide to run for an election, which I did. And you don't know what to expect when you get here, but you taught me a drastic and very important lesson my first term. I think I was in my first month. We had a proclamation that we voted for, and I just threw my hand up, and then you asked me, you singled me out, why would you vote for that? And I saw it as, well, it's maybe these people want this, or maybe that's their right. But you said, no, why would you want that? Why would this hurts people? And so that taught me a very valid lesson, because I voted for something that had always been done, because we kind of come from the background of maybe you really can't change things, or when you're up here you really can't. Well, that taught me right then and there you really can change things. And from that point forward, we changed that, did we not? But you had the strength. And so I think what we're doing today, for you to address all of us, and your feelings are valid, and we have a duty, everyone, to rally behind these feelings that you have. We have a duty to seek them out and question why we do these things, and try to get to these injustices, because you sure changed my mind on something once a long time ago, and you do it constantly, and I appreciate that. And I enjoy the times when, as a board, we've gone on the rideabouts through town, kind of like you all have been doing the cleanups, and I'll be there for some too. But we need to not just have a comprehensive plan, or not just have a goals or our budget plan. We need to also have that vision on how we all see Griffin. And I enjoyed it when we rode along and we said, this needs to be worked on, or this apartment complex, and we all got behind it. So I do want to ride into districts 1, 2, 6. I ride through them all the time, but I want to see it as you all see it, because I can't wave a wand and make everything look like Rodney said, or Commissioner McCord says, the classrooms all look the same. But we all do need to put this vision down so we can work. And not, if I'm not here in several months, at least succession planning for you all as a board, or that particular board member to come forward to see something on paper that we all did work on as a vision, and keep working on it and not drop the ball. And I too want that swimming pool. I want it as bad as anyone. If I could make it happen today, we need to make something happen. But I appreciate what you've done, Commissioner Curtis. And you all should never feel like we don't support, or I don't think you'd feel that way, but I don't think I can see it exactly the way you see it. But you've chipped away at me, and hopefully, and don't give up on that, and always bring this forward, and always keep that strength. And you are extremely fair, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and for this city, and you're an amazing leader, and I rally behind you. That's all.
Anything else?
I make a motion that we consider executive session pursuant to OCGA section 50-14-3B1B for the purpose of authorizing negotiation to purchase, dispose of, or lease property, and pursuant to OCGA section 50-14-2-1 for the purpose of consulting and meeting with legal counsel pertaining to pending or potential litigation, settlement, claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions brought or to be brought by or against the agency or any officer or employee, or in which the agency or any officer or employee may be directly involved.
We got a motion, Commissioner McCord, we have a second by Commissioner Tinsley. All in favor, please raise your hand and go to the back room and join us. Thank you. I am freezing.
Me too, man.
God.
I was scared y'all was gonna notice.
Oh my goodness.
Trying to cover.
I've been up here just like, feel like I'm in a duck blind.
I thought you had to go to the doctor. Are you going?
I called and changed it.
Okay. You gonna be okay?
Yeah. I'm hoping this is my last visit.
Huh?
According to my nurse chaperone, she said it might be. Chilled up quite nicely. Take this one.
I gotta take it. It's cold in here.
Yes, ma'am. How's the thermostat in this place? Oh, right here?
Yeah, there, but I don't know if it's. Because it said on 67.
No wonder.
I'll wait. Hopefully it won't last long.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Gosh, it is so cold. All right. You can. I want to do my driveway with this, but it costs 3 times as much.
Well, we'll get together, we'll do Maple Drive.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Murray with motion, second by Commissioner Ward. All in favor, please leave and go home.